What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Hey, what's up, you guys? Yes. Um, go subscribe to Alex if you haven't already. AYYDUBS. It's AYYDUBS on YouTube. Now, this is one of those videos that I wish people actually watch this channel for. See that little tongue action? I have a huge fucking tongue. But so what I wanted to talk about was I'm just going to talk about it. So I often feel like, well, the thing is, I don't like pessimism. And I often feel like I value, or really nihilism is what I'm against. And I often feel like I don't critique things because I think it's more important to not be nihilistic than it is to critique them. But in this video, I'm going to point out some things that I don't like, even though what I really think is the best thing to do is to embrace and love in these scenarios rather than critique, But I'm just saying, in my utopian world, these things would be different. So the thing that I would be embracing and loving would be a different thing than what's in this realm. Because I believe we should embrace and love everything, regardless of what it is. Absolutely everything. And that's more important than that. I mean, that behavior, that's the right thing to do, There's something else very simple. Oh, also, like, to that same point, I think that there's better things to be doing than making YouTube videos. Like, I don't even think I should be doing this. I'm like a pretty introverted person, and there's something, grossly inauthentic about me just making this content at all. So, there's things that I think that we should do, but I also think that sometimes doing what we shouldn't do, can bring us on a path to somewhere. I mean, I'm doing it, so that accounts for something, Whether or not someone should make videos, I think, is maybe arbitrary. I'm not sure. I don't think we should make videos. Regardless. Oh, then the one other thing was I feel like meditation. Did I talk about this already? Where did I talk about this? In a previous video. I wish meditation wasn't something that we should do, but I think that it is. Weirdly enough. I mean, right. I think that it is what we should do, but I also think that it's not, like, the way that the human being works, that is what we should do, but I wish that we worked a different way, where we didn't need to meditate. I really wish that. I wish we didn't have to eat food also, I wish we didn't have any of that, needing to eat food or sex drives. I wish we didn't have that. Anyways, the thing that I was, now that we're 5 minutes in, what I'm nihilistic about is this attitude that shows up in a lot of places. It's this cultural kind of thing. I see it in comedy. I had a dream last night about this, actually. I've had this thought in real life, and then it came up in my dream, where I was in this room with a carpeted floor, and there were 4 people there, and they were sort of they were supposed to be, I think, the Beatles today, but obviously they were all alive, and also one of them was Jerry Seinfeld, and they were doing like comedy, or they were supposed to be doing comedy. They were kind of just standing there, and it was just a kind of awkward, like, boring speech, like, just kind of awkward, like, what do you, not symposium, what do you call those things? Like a presentation or something? I don't know if that's the right word. Conference? No. Master class? Something that would be in the VPC. Anyways, it was like, I was giving them this critique that in comedy, you know, like when comedians talk about other comedians they respect, they're always not that funny, you know? I mean, the comedian, you know, like, I'm not going to throw anyone under, well, now I feel like a dick. There's like comics, I guess, you know? Like the comedians that other comedians always say are, this guy is so funny, they're so funny. They're not funny, you know? And what's odd about comedy as an art form is that what you're doing, what you're providing is like worse than like, it's like not the best product, you know? Like if you're a chef, you're potentially making the best meal that someone ever eats, you know? And if you're a musician, you're almost certainly making the best sound, you know, or the best, yeah, sound that a person hears for that type of reason, you know? But in comedy, it's like, I don't know how many people have laughed their hardest from stand-up comedy, you know? Like, you know, because I think that what's funniest for people is things that are unintentionally funny and sort of jokes like that people make with each other, sort of like, you know, analyzing something and then like joking with your friends, like, you know, there's something like communal, like laughing is like, it's kind of like a social thing, you know? So while, you know, stand-up can be very funny, it's usually more smart, it's usually more kind of like, you know, it has this like cohesion to it, like it's like, yeah, it's like just beholding like brilliance or something like that. It's not really what makes you laugh the most, you know? And that's what's sort of odd about it. And that's why I think with comedians, like, what they really respect is comics that make like really solid jokes, you know, ones that are gonna like, you know, keep the energy of the room there. And it's not necessarily the like funniest stuff. So it's weird, you know? I mean, it's just like, but you do see some comedians that like, that go off the rails more, you know? Like, what's that guy, Rick Shapiro? I was gonna think of another, I mean, Stanhope, but even him is like, he's still like pretty, you know, his jokes are jokes, you know? It's like, he's just, I mean, thematically darker and kind of like the scummier kind of vibe, but like it's really not that, you know? It's really just, you know, it's a lot like Louis, I don't know. It's so what was I going to say about that? That I guess, you know, so this was the first example that like when I feel like comics like do like an offshoot, you know, like when they make a joke that's kind of like less smart or like they just do a little add-on, that's maybe like the most fun part, they're like, okay, now back to the serious thing, you know? Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, there's some Louis C.K. lines where it's just like, he kind of breaks character, he kind of does something that seems like kind of off, and then it's sort of framed in this way where it's like, okay, now we'll get back to the real thing, you know? And this kind of maintaining of this, well, I'll give the other examples and then we can try to figure out what this thing is. The second, I was going to do this one last, but with drinking, I'm going to make a whole video on drinking, I think. Maybe this will be the video. I think drinking is like, so I haven't drank for like maybe 3.5 years, 4.5 years. And is it 3 or 4? 3.5. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't drink anymore. But I believe drinking is like this. It's like a deeply spiritual, like it's just a deeply powerful drug. I mean, it connects you with yourself in a really powerful way. I mean, it's like so. It's so incredible. And I mean being drunk. I don't mean like drinking a little bit. I mean being drunk. Like where you're puking at the end of it. That to be drunk is like a really, really incredible thing. And it's something I used to do a lot. And when I would drink a ton and I'd get really, really drunk. And I didn't black out. That was not, I mean, I blacked out one time. People always say blackout drunk. I would just get really, really drunk. And, you know, that I would just feel things like, there's this farm I woofed at where they always kept a keg of PBR there. And at night, we would just like fill a pitcher and drink it, and then fill the pitcher again and drink it. And someone would just keep going to refill the pitcher. And I'd be drinking out of like one of these like mason jars. Like not a full mason jar, but like a little like mason glass thing. That kind of felt like it was a beer, but it was actually like almost two. And I'd get really, really drunk, and I'd be really tired because we would farm like all day there, and it was hard. I mean, everyone says farming's hard, but I farmed at a lot of places, and this was by far the hardest work. Yeah. I wouldn't say by far the hardest work, but it was by almost far the hardest work. And so I'd be tired, and I'd be drunk, and then I would walk back to where I slept, and I'd be outside, and I would look up at the stars. And, oh God, this kills me to say it. So then, the way that drinking is treated is like in these drinking games where it's like, oh, you have to take a shot. And this coy sort of like, this is dirty, this is naughty, but you have to do it. I mean, I almost want to shut off this video right now, like, what was my third example? It was in music. It's music, same thing as comedy, you know, like if you've ever taken a course in popular music or songwriting, um, you know, it's like the academia. This could probably be extended to academia in general, but it's like the way songs are reviewed is on an academic level in like pop music, folk music. People are talking about like the choices they make. I mean, it's all analyzed against classical theory, which makes sense. Um, but like how viewing everything in life as like how it fits into feminism and patriarchy, it's like this is one way to analyze music, you know. Um, and for the many people, it's the way, you know. They'll say this is what the music is it's these chords and these melodies, and you know maybe they'll talk a little bit about like different recording tricks they did or instrumentation, but like what's totally disregarded is like the, you know, like when I'm talking about Lil Wayne and like Every Girl, like that song has 3 chords in it, or it's 6 chords in it, but it has like, you know, what's happening musically is like that's yeah, it's the song. It would be a different song if it had different chords, but if you played those chords on guitar, it would not be Every Girl, you know? Like, you can't guitar cover Every Girl and produce the same effect as that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the choices that they make, it's like it's not about that, and it so rarely is. Like, it's a factor in the music, but it's like, and then this is the thing, like with pros they'll be like, oh, you know, and then he did this crazy thing and he like went out of key and something, but it's like, and he's a pro so he can do that, but like when you're writing songs, don't do that. And it's like, I could do a lot on music alone, but it's the same type of thing where it's like the truth is buried, I guess. It's like restricted. Restricted is kind of a good word. In favor of this sort of like what we can. It's a lot. I mean, this is what I don't quite understand is what actually this is. It's like this sort of like, I don't even think there's actually a thing there that's being preserved. You know what I mean? It's like we say that we're like preserving order by not being drunk. But there isn't actually order either way, you know? And in terms of art, it's like we're preserving, you know, this idea of like being proper. I don't know, like the thing is, it's so, I I can see like there being nothing there. So it's so like I almost just want to say that cultures don't exist, you know? I mean, it's like this this sort of like ranking of behaviors in terms of eliteness is there's no pope for this. You know what I mean? Like there's no centralized uh, figurehead on music. and on human behavior. So if you're going to choose to act in this way, just understand that you're doing it for nothing. You know? I mean, you're really doing it for nothing, because it's not like people even really care. It's not like people even really look at a person and say, well, this person is upholding of these values. I mean, maybe a generation ago it was a little bit different. But now I feel like, I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't want to talk about other generations. Like, but it's like, I don't understand. I had the idea for Tinder when I was 13 years old, which is before Tinder came out. The exact idea. After Honesty Box came out, so it's not that impressive, but you know, I was kind of trying to do Tinder through Honesty Box, being like sending codes and saying like send this code back. But I don't know, like, I think everyone should have like a public profile with like everyone they want to fuck on it, or like everyone they want to do like each sexual act with, and then it all gets matched. You know? I think we should like, yeah, do like the thing that we like the most all the time. And I kind of do live that way, you know? Not all the time, but sometimes I really do live that way. Sometimes I just say like, I'm going to drive forever. You know? I mean, there was a time where I just played Zelda on my laptop. I would wake up and I would play Zelda. And then I would go to sleep, and then I would wake up and I would play Zelda. And I didn't even like Zelda, but I just lived in the Zelda world. And I just did that until I was so bored and depressed that I wanted to do something else, you know? But I wasn't there saying like, oh, I should like limit my time doing this because, you know, this is a special treat for sometimes. And it's like, you know? And again, and again, it's like I'm not dictating what people's behavior should be in like this actual world. I'm just saying that I wish hypothetically things were different, you know? I wish that all people hypothetically, like not that the actual people today would change, but just that instead of us being who we are, that we are people that embrace doing what we love all of the time and are not interested in these sort of like hypothetical abstract systems of proper, you know, music, proper comedy, proper I don't even know what you say about the alcohol one. It's so fucking stupid, you know? And obviously with sexual stuff, it's the other one. That one I have successfully completely fucking broken down. I have never been in a relationship where someone is like withholding sex from me, or like where we're saying like, oh, like this is a special thing. It's like, no. Like we will kiss each other all the fucking time, you know? Because that's what we like doing. Like it's just, that's just, you know? Like I'm never gonna have bullshit around that. I mean, I'm not gonna like rape someone. I'm just gonna like, you know what I mean? Like, if someone's asexual, we're just not gonna. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Not maybe I'd rape them, but maybe I would adapt to a non-sexual relationship. If I become a monk, I might have to. But regardless, my point is that all sissies gone to hell. I want people to actually watch these videos. Like, I feel like if I make them too long, people don't watch. You know, I'm sure there's countless more examples. I didn't really think of this beforehand, as always. You know, it's sort of like going your own way, this little, like, you know, follow, you know, like, the sort of Emerson slash Paulo Coelho slash, you know, a lot of philosophies. It's like, it's not, I don't really know. I don't really know. I guess the question is, what are we preserving? What are we preserving? I mean, who is this? Like, why are we creating a god out of, like, you know, something that, like, we're not aligned with, you know? Like, if I'm at a party and people are saying, at a drinking game, and they're saying, like, oh, you have to drink, I'll be like, hey, you know what? Let's just dump all this alcohol down the drain. Then none of us have to drink. Then we can just play beer pong and there's no punishments. It's perfect. It's what everyone wants, right? Like, I guess it touches me personally because, like, I've always been kind of, like, goofy and shit, and, like, but I don't really see myself as that. You know? It's like, I feel like, you know, I care about it less and less, but when I was younger, being defined by being not the norm was such an insult to me, you know? It's just so disrespectful. I don't really know. It's like when people just, I don't know, like, and it's ignorant too, because it's like, you know, most people are Asian, and people in America are like, oh, wow, this is like an Asian thing, like, this is interesting, like, this is unique. It's like, no, it's not. Like, this is what's normal. Like, most things are fucking Asian. Like, America is weird because it's not Asian. You know, if you're gonna be honest, like, if you're white or if you're black, like, that's a weird skin color to have. I mean, it's just, it's not, it's unusual. You know? Even if you're Indian, like, I mean, they would already say that about Indian, but, like, you know, there's so many fucking Indian people though, like, almost as many as Chinese. Anyways, what was I on about? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I was saying I think this angers me because it touches me personally. Well, I've always felt like there's so many other opportunities for what people can do with their lives, you know? I've always felt like Well, when I was younger, I thought that I would go to China and Africa and everywhere. I mean, I always just thought that I would do that, and I thought that everyone would do that. Like, I always was like, how could you not go to China in your life? Or Russia? Like China, Russia, Africa, Mexico. I think as I got older, I started to say just those. But when I was younger, I probably thought I'd go everywhere in South America. Like, I thought that was probably the first place I'd go, was South America. And that I'd go to Europe, you know, like, and I maybe wouldn't like it there. Like, I maybe wouldn't like everywhere I go, but go there, you know. And I'd go to the Middle East, you know. And I'd go all over Africa. You know, and I go to Australia. I think as a kid I thought I'd go to fucking Australia too. Maybe I still will. Who knows? But anyways, it's like where was I? What am I? Oh yeah, that like, but that it wouldn't be that traveling. It would just be like that's what you would do, and then I thought basically if you worked for like a year or two, you'd make all the money you needed for your whole life. I think it's because my dad used to say that he worked because he liked his job. And I took that literally. I thought it was like, oh. Um, that was sort of the idea I had. You know, or maybe 10 years. And I didn't think, like, I just don't think about danger so much. Like, I really don't think that people should have houses. Like, I kind of detest sleeping inside. You know? But it's a luxury I get to choose. You know? And it's also where I'm living, like, makes it more okay than if I was in, like, you know, somewhere where it snows and shit. Then it's a little different. You need preparation. But the idea of there even being social norms there is so odd to me. And they're not. Like, they're there because we kind of imagine them. But that's all they are, you know? Like anything like that. So, yeah, and then I felt like we would just create like these really fun, interesting things. Like, you know, like when I was a kid, there was like Mario 64 and Yoshi's Island and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and and like Super Smash Brothers, the original one for the N64, and Donkey Kong. And I was kind of surprised that like there was like the Super Nintendo and like uh, NES. Like I was inclined to believe, you know, then like Game Boys came out, and there's Game Boy Color. Like I thought N64 was sort of the first one, but there was like Sega Genesis. Anyways, then it was like Game Boy Advance came out, and like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 and Underground and American Wasteland, but I thought what was going to happen was like that they were going to make Mario real. Like I thought they would just make like a real world, like a real fantasy world where people could go in, you know? Like we would have a lot more missions to outer space and shit. That's what I thought. Then like YouTube came out. Then it was like Facebook. Well, then it was like MySpace, and like there was like Wi-Fi and shit, and internet, like Ethernet or whatever. Like it wasn't dial-up anymore. This internet's been a whole fucking waste of time, you know? Like it's just like now it's all like iPhones, and I really would have preferred if we had spent our time cultivating, you know, like magic and things like this. You know, just put it all, like, if all our tech money just went into roller coasters, I think we'd all be a lot better off, right? And we wouldn't just, because phones, you know, what do we have with phones now? People like hacking each other and like all this bullshit. I'm not about that, you know? So anyways, yeah, I really like music and comedy, and I did like getting drunk for a while. Um, and just, you know, I believe in this sort of like interesting, fun things happening all the time.